Pokemon has always been about trading, and in this challenge, that's all I can do. In Pokemon HeartGold, I can only use Pokemon I receive through trades. No catching, no gift Pokemon, just whatever I can get my hands on from trading. Can a trade-only team really beat all 16 gyms, the Elite Four, and even Red at the top of Mount Silver? Let's find out. After a deceptively long intro sequence, we can choose our starter. Not that it matters, as we won't receive it from a trade, but I still opt for the best choice, purely as we don't get a water type from a trade at any point. So, HMs. But we don't have to wait long until our first real encounter, as just outside Violet City we can find a Bellsprout and catch it, and then just inside the city we can trade it for an Onix. We don't get any other members for a while, but it's okay, as this Rock Serpent will do bits for the first and second gym. The first challenge we have to face though is a top Sprout Tower, as the Elder has his own Bellsprout, and as you probably know, Onix has severe hay fever. Luckily we are very physically defensive, so their Vine Whips do little and we can take them both down while staying healthy, which means it is time for the first gym, the Flying Leader Falconer. And honestly, I won't spend too much time on this. He has 2 birds, and it only took 3 stones. Onix does get hated on, as it is abysmal in comparison to others, but it does smash the early game for us, and, you know, gotta give it credit where credit's due. The Rocket grunts inside the Slowpoke well were no trouble whatsoever, and neither was the admin. His coughing didn't stand a chance. But this is where I noticed the XP problem. We only have 1 Pokemon, and we are definitely going to exceed the level cap with all these mandatory battles. So, if you hate me and think I'm a fraud, make sure you let me know down below in the comments. But I'm gonna be real, I don't think the extra level was the crutch in this gym battle. We have the type advantage, and I think we would smash him if we were below the level cap anyway. A Rock Tomb can almost get the Oko against his lead Scyther, and then he heals up and we miss another. But the next turn we can connect and KO his ace, levelling up again. Jeez, stop with all this XP, man. Anyway, his other bugs don't pose a threat at all, and his Metapod goes down to a tackle after a Rock Tomb does most of the work, and then his Kakuna goes down exactly the same. Second gym down, if only the rest would be as easy as the first 2. We are already above the next level cap. Yes, I'm a fraud. Anyway, our rival unsubbed, yes, those of you who are unsubbed are the enemy, stops us and halts our progress, and my god, this was a roadblock. His team is okay for this stage. Obviously we outleveled, but the sheer numbers and the 4 times effective starter really tip the battle in his favour. His Ghastly, we can take care of it without it cursing, but then his starter, now a Bayleaf, can come out and it can just KO us in 2 shots, taking our first whiteout of the run. And in true fashion, I changed nothing about my strategy and just go straight for it again. And I jinxed it. Turn 1, we whiff our Rock Tomb and get cursed by his ghost, meaning this attempt is just another wipe. As when his starter comes out, we are already too weak and we just fall to a Razor Leaf. I then decide to switch up my strategy and I level way beyond the level cap to 22 so I can learn Sandstorm, and this is the one I can feel it. We Oko his Ghastly, and when his starter comes out, I set up a Sandstorm. I then get them to -6 with Screech, and we can eventually take it down despite the Reflect and the Synthesis recovery. And then his final mon is a Zubat, and we can easily Oko, ironically getting another level for defeating him. But now we can finally progress past that point, and we get our second team member. We can pick up a Drowsy just outside of Goldenrod and immediately trade it to a bloke in the department store for a Machop. And this little guy will go hard against the next gym, and I know Onix is above the level cap, but we won't even use it, trust me. We set up a focused energy first turn, and then the next we can Oko with a Karate Chop that gets a crit, perfectly executed. Her ace, the scary Miltank, is out, and we avoid a Stomp flinch and hit a Karate Chop that does about a third, and another Stomp brings us to just 12 HP, and we avoid another flinch and respond with a super effective Karate Chop that gets a crit and KOs from that range, beating the sore loser first try and claiming our 3rd badge. Well, after she cries a bit. I decide to press onwards to Olivine to fish up a Krabby as we can get yet another team member. We can trade the crab for a Pokeball. I have never used Voltorb or Electrode, so I am keen to see what they have to offer. We do have to take on our rival again, and I still have PTSD, but now we have more team members, we can do it easily. Voltorb can take down the Ghastly with a couple of sparks, and this brings out the scary dinosaur flower thing, but Voltorb just doesn't care. They try to heal up, they try to reflect, they try to poison us, but Billy the Voltorb doesn't care, as he can just fire off Sonic Boom after Sonic Boom for the KO. Zubat is out next, and I decide to stay in, and the spark does over half, but we get confused and fall the next turn. Thankfully, Onyx can come out and get the KO, bringing in his final mon, Magnemite, and we can get the Magnet to -6 defense, and a few headbutts can take down the pesky Steel type. I then decide to evolve our Rock Snake before the gym, turning it into one of my all-time favourites, the Steel Serpent Steelix. This thing is a beast and walls pretty much everything physically, and I'm sure we will see that soon. And not to mention, it gives us a resistance against the Ghost Gym, and that is exactly where we go next. I lead with my Sphere against his Sphere. A Spark does 2/3 and paralyzes, and I expect them to heal up, so I set up a light screen, but they go for a lick that paralyzes us. Why the hell can electric types get paralysed? Another Spark thankfully takes it out as we level up. Yes, it's allowed by the rules. And we can learn Charge Beam, which will allow for some awesome snowballing strategies. Pun intended. His Ace comes out and I fire off a Charge Beam and get the boost as they lock us in with Mean Look. They go for a Sucker Punch, which activates our static ability and paralyzes, and another Charge Beam brings it below half before Berry. Another Sucker Punch brings us low, and another Charge Beam brings it into the red and gets another boost. They heal up and I set up another light screen, and the next turn we fall to a Shadow Ball. I then bring out our Fighting type, which looks funny, but I do have a plan. We can fire off a super effective payback for over half, and the next turn we get a low roll and leave on what must be 1 HP. But thankfully they are fully paralysed, so the next turn we can take it down. His next mon is his first Haunter, and we avoid the Hypnosis, and now our payback is boosted, we get the Oko. And his final mon is the other Haunter, and the Nightshade can't bring us down, so another boosted payback gets the KO and our 4th badge. And we head straight to the 5th gym, and it was an absolute breeze as we have an evolved team now, but we only need Electrode. A Charge Beam does just under half to his Monkey as they set up a double team, and the next turn we manage to hit through and get a crit for the KO and get the boost. He then sends out a Water type, and we outspeed, obviously, and we do well over half before Berry, and a Body Slam does a 3rd. We then fire off another Charge Beam that leaves it super low and get another boost. They then heal up and a Charge Beam brings it back into the red, and guess what? Another boost. They use their final Hyper Potion, but this time our Charge Beam can just get the KO from full. That's what I'm talking about. We'll have some more of that, please. And it's that point again. We all know the Forbidden Johto curve is absolutely, which means we have to go into the Jasmine battle under-leveled as usual to make sure we stay under the future level caps, which is annoying but not impossible. Machoke is my chosen lead, and I set up a Focus Energy first turn as they paralyse, but I gave Amon a berry to negate it. Absolute huge brain plays. And the next turn we can KO with a crit Karate Chop. We can then Oko her other Magnet with yet another crit, and this brings out her ace Steelix. And we know from personal experience this thing is a beast. We get a crit super effective stab Karate Chop, and it doesn't even do half, and an Iron Tail brings us below half. Another Karate Chop doesn't get a crit this time, so after Berry they are still above half as we fall to an Iron Tail. I bring out our ball and I just keep pressing Sonic Boom for guaranteed damage. We bring it low and they heal up, and we get brought low by a crit Iron Tail, but we do get the static paralysis. We do fall, but we bring in our own steel type, and this is a long slog. I get them to -6 defense, and as we outspeed, we can fire off many headbutts and get flinches and full paras, and because they wasted their heal earlier on, we can whittle it down and KO for the badge. After using the red Gyarados for XP, we can storm the Rocket hideout, and as usual, this is a joke. The level of the grunts and the admins are just laughable, and it makes all the battles trivial, especially the double battle with Lance. This could have been such a cool moment, but no, it's just anticlimactic. But what wasn't anticlimactic this run was the 7th gym battle. We do end up slightly over the level cap thanks to the increase in experience gained, but it was still a fairly difficult battle. I lead with our electric type against his water type, and we miss a charge beam and get hit by an icy wind. We still outspeed despite the speed drop and almost KO and get another boost and then get hit by another. They heal up, but it's not enough as we can KO and get yet another boost. His ace is out and I can't keep spamming charge beams as they are immune, so I go for Swift and it does just under half. A second takes it below half, activating the berry as we get hit by a blizzard for huge damage. We fall just short of the KO with another Swift as we fall to another blizzard. Machoke can come in and a blizzard does just under half as we finish off his ace, bringing in an annoying Dugong. An Aurora Beam brings us low and drops our attack, and our submission does just over half, but recoil brings us super low and then we fall to an Ice Shard. I bring in our tank and they rest up, but it can't save it. I keep firing off Rock Tombs and Headbutts, and we can eventually bring it down. It was closer than I wanted, but we can claim our 7th badge. And now it's time for the mandatory Rocket segment. Yay! All the grunts are a breeze, obviously, and Petrol and his explosive gas is no match for our Steel type, only switching to Electrode as our accuracy was brought too low. It does make me laugh how our rival takes the opportunity to battle us as Team Rocket have taken over the city and we are stood in an underground warehouse full of grunts. But anyway, we do battle him and the times of struggle against him are long in the past. Electro can take out his Golbat and get the special attack boost, bringing out his starter, and we can bring it below half before falling. Machamp can then come in and pick up the KO on his ace, and this brings out Haunter, and a Nightshade leaves us on 1 HP before we can fire off another payback for the Oko. His Ice and Dark type is out and unfortunately can outspeed and KO with a quick attack, but our Steelix can come in and destroy the Ice type, and his final mon is his Magnet. And we do KO, but Confusion made it a little bit more complicated than it should be. Anyway, the other admins are just pushovers with their poison types, being walled by Steelix. And the only one of note is Archer atop the observation deck. His Houndour gets OK'd by Karate Chop from Machamp, and then he sends out one of my favourite Pokemon of all time. But unfortunately we do have to KO it. It leaves us on just 14 HP, but we can get the KO, and his final mon is Coughing, so we switch into Steelix and wall it to defeat Team Rocket, disbanding the criminals once and for all. And now we have made it to Blackthorn City. Finally, I can evolve a Dratini I got from the game corner and trade it for a Dodrio. This mon is the final mon we get until we become champion of the Johto region. This team of 4 is all we have got. But to become champion, we need to win the final badge in battle against the Dragon leader Claire. She leads with Gyarados and I with Electrode, and a Charge Beam leaves it on what must be 1 HP, and a Dragon Rage does a flat 40 HP damage to us. And the next turn they heal up, so we can bring them low again and get the boost, and the next turn we can take it down. I thought she had another heal there, but anyway, she brings in her first Dragonair, and a Swift crits and does well over half, and we get parried. A Dragon Pulse then brings us low and we get fully paralysed, so I stay in, and an Aqua Tail leaves us on 1 HP, and we break through paralysis and KO with a Swift. Her ace is out and our ball falls to safely bring in our new member Dodrio. We outspeed and go for a fly and it does over half before berry, and we avoid the hydro pump. I then go for fury attack to get it into fly range and then go for smoke screen, but we hit through and fly for the KO, bringing down her ace. Her final Dragonair is out and I go for a fly again and we miss and get paralysed. We then get hit by a Dragon Pulse before hitting a fly that does huge damage, almost KOing. She then full restores, fully healing, and we are fully paralysed. Another Dragon Pulse then brings us low and we miss our attack, and then we hit a crit fly through paralysis and accuracy drops to KO and defeat the gym, claiming our 8th badge. I did not know Dodrio was that good. We then have to battle the Kimono Girls, and this can sometimes be a pain, but our team is fairly well rounded considering it's not a full team of 6. Machamp can Oko the Umbreon after confusing shenanigans. Steelix can take down the Espeon with some Iron Tails. Dojo can take out the Flareon with a Fly. Steelix can come in and KO the Jolteon. And finally Dodrio can take out the Vaporeon. Nice and simple. They then mention the box art legendary will be summoned, so I make my way to the peak of the tower and then Steelix just dunks on the Phoenix. Who needs a legendary when you've got this guy? And after making the grueling trip through Victory Road, we have to take on our rival for the final time, and to say we have come a long way is an understatement. Machamp can Oko his Sneasel, bringing in his Psychic type, and I stay in and they disable our Karate Chop, but I go for a payback so we can get another Oko. Golbat comes out next and I switch into our Electric type, and 2 Charge Rooms later we can KO, but we get no boosts. His starter comes out and I switch back into Machamp and get the KO after Dodrio somehow fumbles the KO on a paralysed opponent. You can't make it up. Machamp can then Oko the Haunter with a payback and then destroy his Magnet. I have said it before and I will say it again. He needs to have a fully evolved team at this point. It would make it so much more fun and difficult. But anyway, we are finally at the Pokemon League. And I know this is going to be insanely difficult. Our mons are awesome, but we do only have 4. As always, I pray to Arceus and I head on inside. And first up is the Psychic Specialist Will, and his lead Xatu is perfect for Electrode. A Charge Beam does huge damage but no boost, and we take a Psychic fairly well. They then heal up and we get a higher roll and Oko from full and get the boost. Jinx is in and I click roll out for some reason, and then we get put to sleep, which I feel like is karma for my mistake. We get brought low and wake up and proceed to miss our attack, so we fall the next turn. Steelix can come in and unfortunately we get put to sleep and brought below half before we can fire off a Crunch for the KO. Slowbro comes in and I fire off a Crunch for decent damage before falling to a Water Pulse. I then bring out Dodrio and go for an Acupressure, and we get a special defense boost, which is really convenient. They then just proceed to spam Curse so I can eventually take it down with a Fly, and then Executor is his penultimate mon, and we would have one-shot with Fly, but they get a Reflect off, so it takes 2. And his final Xatu can only take 2 before falling. Dodrio is kind of insane, I'm not gonna lie. Next up is Koga, my least favourite. This guy, all he does is spam status and evasion. That does not make him an elite level trainer, he is a fraud. Anyway, we lead Dodrio and Oko the Ariados with a Fly, and this brings out Forretress. I switch into Steelix on a Toxic Spikes and I see an Iron Tail does little, so I basically alternate between Crunch and Curse, trying to bait the explosion, and it does eventually come, but after I had already brought it below half. Venomoth comes in and brings us low with Psychic, and we bring it below half, so I switch into Dodrio on another and KO the next turn with a Fury attack. His Muck is now out and it starts to spam Minimize, I want to die. A Fly thankfully hits and does over half, and Dodrio hits a Fury attack through the evasion for the KO. Dodrio is my goat. His own flying type is out and it starts spamming double teams. I swear to God, this battle got me so pressed. we get a 5-hit Fury attack that brings it into berry range, and the next turn we get brought below half and miss our attack. We get brought low and connect and bring it below half, and the next turn we fall. I bring in our electric type, and all we need to do is hit a charge beam, and it only took 3 tries, but we connect and KO, beating the most annoying battle of the run. Thankfully, Bruno is more simple. I lead Dojo and I just go for acupressure a few times and get a physical defense boost and a speed boost so we can Oko the Hitmontop and Oko the Hitmonchan with super effective flies. He brings out his Onix, so I switch into Machamp, and 2 Karate Chops later we can KO. Hitmonlee is out next and Dojo can come back in and pick up another Oko with another fly, and his final mon is his own Machamp. I go for a fly and it still hits the cross chop thanks to no guard, but we survive on just 3 HP, and we can reply with a fly that Okos. Dojo is honestly proven to be the MVP. Karen is the final Elite Four member and the hottest, but she is no joke. Her Umbreon thankfully doesn't confuse Machamp, so we can take it down without being brought too low. She then sends out her Murkrow, but I stay in and Karate Chop does over half, and we get Whirlwinded out into Electrode, which is perfect. So after a Sucker Punch, we can KO with a Charge Beam. Electrode falls to Houndoom, but does bring it to Berry before, so I can bring in Machamp, and Houndoom goes for a nasty plot. So I have to KO this turn, and Karate Chop destroys the dog, bringing out Gengar. They only go for a spite, so a boosted payback gets the clean Oko. Machamp is the ghost killer, I swear. And her final mon is Vileplume, and they paralyse us and then Petal Dance, so a Guts boosted payback is enough to pick up the KO, defeating the Elite Four. Now, full disclosure, I had planned nothing for this battle past Gyarados, so I'm sure it'll go down well. Electrode can bring the Serpent low with a Charge Beam and get the boost, so the next turn he heals up and we can KO from full with another, and get a second boost. His first Dragonite is out and a Charge Beam does little, but gets another boost before they fire off an Outrage for the KO. I bring Steelix out and then Outrage does nothing to our beast, and an Iron Tail brings a Pseudo below half before Berry. They then hurt themselves in confusion and an Iron Tail falls just short of the KO, but they whiff a Fire Blast so we can pick it up the next turn. His Charizard is out next and I have to switch, so I bring in Dodrio on a Fire Fang that crits. I go for a fly that does over half and an Air Slash gets the KO on our bird. Steelix is back out and we actually take the Fire Fang decently well, and we bring the Zard low before falling. Machamp is our only hope and we get brought super low by an Air Slash, but get the KO with a payback. And now we stare down Aerodactyl, who can just outspeed and KO with an Aerial Ace. Before we attempt that again, I make a couple of key changes here and I'm sure they will prove useful. I teach Steelix Ice Fang and Machamp Rock Tomb, and I head back on in and face down against the champion. The battle starts just like the first. We almost KO and get the boost, take a waterfall, they heal up, and then we KO the next turn. We stay in and sacrifice Electrode against Dragonite and bring in Steelix mid-outrage. An Ice Fang can do huge damage, bringing it below half before Berry, and the next turn we can take it out, staying above half. The Zard comes out and I switch into Machamp on a Fire Fang, and the next turn we survive an Air Slash on 21 HP, but fire off a 4 times super effective Rock Tomb for the KO. Aerodactyl is up next and we let Machamp fall so we can safely bring in Steelix, and this is where we pop off. We can take a soft crunch and get a curse off. We then take an Aerial Ace super well and fire off an Iron Tail for the Oko, leaving only his 2 Dragonites. The first one comes out and misses a Blizzard as we fire off an Ice Fang for the Oko. And then his final Dragonite is out, and this is the one with Thunder, so they have to go for Dragon Rush, which misses, so an Ice Fang can KO his other dragon, defeating the champion and crowning us the new champion of the Johto region. But we are not done there. Now we can access the Kanto region, we can finally get some more team members. after we sort the power plant problems and move the Snorlax, obviously thieving the leftovers before we KO it, we can get a Diglett in Diglett's tunnel and evolve it and trade it at the power plant for a Magneton. I know we already have a Steel type and an Electric type, but this is a huge upgrade for our team. What a mon. And after using the Nintendo magic to evolve it into a Magnezone, it shows its prowess by sweeping Brock. Graveler goes down to a single flash cannon, thanks to Gen 4 Sturdy. Rhyhorn also gets OHKO'd by another. Onix outspeeds and gets a Screech off, but it also gets one shot as well. Kabutops gets an Aqua Jet off and a Discharge leaves it on literally 1 HP. They heal, but we fire off another that gets a higher roll and KOs. Omastar is his final mon, and we get the straight OHKO with another Discharge on his last fossil to claim our first badge of Kanto. But there is one thing we need to do before we leave Pewter City. We can trade a Haunter for a Xatu, and this is the first trade where I think we receive a worse mon than we give. But getting back on track with the Kanto gyms, and as usual these are not too difficult. Misty ironically was probably one of the toughest, but that is because I tried to use Xatu, whose only attacking moves by level up is Future Sight and Ominous Wind until level 59. Anyway, Electrode and Magnezone can easily defeat Misty after Xatu fumbles. Surge is up next. Yeah, I thought it'd be fun to take him on in order, and his electric types literally cannot hurt Steelix. I forgot to teach it a ground move, but it didn't matter, because with the leftovers attached, we finished the battle paralysed, but actually at full HP. Erica was also a sweep. Well, I tried to use Xatu again for some reason, and it just failed miserably, so Dojo could come in and finish the rest of her team with a series of super effective flies. Janine was up next, and I totally forgot you can just pick up the Psychic TM in Saffron, and there's no one else in our team who could actually use it, so Xatu actually gets to do something. It OHKOs Janine's entire team. That is the shock performance of the run. And then try another Xatu sweep against Sabrina with Ominous Wind, but it does so little to Espeon, who just OHKOs with a Calm Mind boost to Shadow Ball. Steelix can come in and chomp on her team, even soloing her Alakazam, before Magnezone can KO the Mr. Mime. Machamp does well against playing one shot in the Magcargo and somehow avoiding a bounce for the KO on Rapidash, and I put all my faith in Xatu, and it pays off as it defeats the Magmar for a victory. And Blue is the final gym we need to beat, and he is actually a difficult battle. He has a well-rounded team, and he has the best Pokemon of all time. He leads with Executor and I with Bird, and they set up a Trick Room as we fly, and we get a crit and OHKO the weird egg tree. His next one is Rhydon, and we can switch into Steelix on a Stone Edge that does so little that Leftovers heals us up to full. But the next turn, an Earthquake does a lot more and crits us for the OHKO. Damn, okay. Thankfully, Machamp takes an Earthquake better and responds with a Cross Chop that leaves it on 1 HP as the dimensions return to normal. They heal up and I go for a Karate Chop for some chip, and then a Cross Chop OHKOs from that range, now we outspeed. His next one is his ace, the Bird, and we avoid an Air Slash but with a Rock Tomb, and the next turn we get KO'd. Electrode can come in, but we miss a Charge Beam and get bought below half by a return, but the next turn we connect and do about half and fall to another return. Magnezone can come in and get the KO, bringing out the best boy, Arcanine. Fun fact, Arcanine is the best Pokemon of all time. I say in and a Fair Blitz just KOs from that range. I forgot how good this dog was. I bring in Xatu, and we get a crit Psychic for the KO. Hell yeah, I should not be laughing. Gyarados comes out, and man, I wish I had an Electric type. I set up a Tailwind as they go for a Dragon Dance, and we do some damage before an Ice Fang gets us. But Dojo can come in and KO, and his final mon is Machamp, and a Stone Edge brings us super low, but we survive, and we can OHKO with a Fly, defeating the final gym and claiming our 16th badge. It is now time for our final encounter of the run, Yeah, some of the traits are actually locked off until you have beat Red. Why? Why? But this one is a ball ache, but bear with me. We can find Brock in Diglett's tunnel any day during the afternoon, but we can only rematch him on a Saturday evening. So we do. And after defeating him, we can find him in Diglett's cave on Saturday evening again for a trade. But he wants a bonsai. So I have to go back to the Johto region, catch a Ditto, and catch the Sudowoodo, put them in the daycare, with the incense that you need rock climb to get, hatch the egg, go back to Diglett's cave and trade with Brock. And our reward? Rhyhorn. And I evolve the rock beast to its final form, Rhyperior, and take on the final challenge of this run, Red, atop the peak of Mount Silver. His Pikachu is a whopping level 88, but it doesn't matter, as Rhyperior's Quick Claw activates and we get the Oko with an Earthquake. Lapras is out next, and Quick Claw activates yet again, and the Thunderfang does respectable damage before we get Oko'd by a Blizzard. What a debut. Magnezone can come in and outspeed and KO from that range with a Discharge. Charizard is out, and we survive a Flare Blitz deep in the yellow, and our Discharge falls just short of the KO, but the hail damage does enough to take it down. Blastoise comes out, and I go for it. I click Zap Cannon, and it connects, Okoing the turtle. Venusaur can finally take down our Magnet, but the damage is already done. Dojo can come in and KO with a fly, bringing out his final Mon Snorlax. And this thing hates to see Machamp coming. We do some chip with our bird before Forearms can come in and get the KO, defeating Red and answering the question, yes. Yes, you can beat Pokemon HeartGold with only Pokemon received through in-game trades. This run was a blast. A more laid-back, non-Nuzlocke run is good once in a while. And I used some Pokemon I have never used before, and that is always so good to do. And obviously, returning to the Johto region is a nice time as well. I thank every single one of you for watching, and if you enjoyed it, hit the like button and subscribe for more wacky Pokemon challenges. And if you have anything to add or a run to suggest, let me know down below. And with all that said, stay classy and have a wonderful, wonderful day.